Hello, my love. I hope you're having the most amazing day doing whatever it is you're doing as you find yourself listening to this. I have just been doing a lot of batch recording, and it feels really good to be in the flow and feeling like I'm really putting out content that I'm very, very proud of and that I know is of such high value and is going to be so helpful. And I have such a deep feeling about today's episode. And it's a topic that I think is so important, as I think every topic I speak about on the podcast is. But it's so important and so necessary of a conversation that I just don't think is happening enough. And I haven't seen it as much as I feel like we should be seeing it. And today's episode is another topic that came from inside the CEO Sisterhood from one of my amazing members that requested this particular topic in the form of a question. And the question is, how do I take care of myself and my business while I'm experiencing PMS? And there are so many things that I have to say in this episode, and so many tips and tricks and bits and pieces like that I will share. But I want to start off with very intentionally mentioning that you may have heard this before from me or from someone else, but for many, this is still a new kind of concept, and I want to share it, but I also want to be very intentional of how I share it. But first and foremost, as we're talking about PMS and that sort of thing, PMS is very, very common. It is commonly experienced by many, many women throughout the world. And it affects every woman differently, but I can say with certainty that most women have experienced PMS in their life, and many suffer with it each and every cycle, every period, to a debilitating extent. Now, while PMS is common, it is not normal. That doesn't mean that you, if you're experiencing PMS, are not normal. That just means that it's not a normal state for your body to be in. Your body is very, very capable of having a period without PMS. If you are experiencing PMS symptoms, including chronic cramping and mood swings, crazy cravings, or anything else that gets in the way of you living your life the way you desire, and being in a lot of pain, under a lot of stress, that is your body signaling to you that there is something out of balance within. Now, that is not meaning that you need to judge your body and your cycle for manifesting in this way, but it's an opportunity to get curious of okay, I'm experiencing all this cramping. If this isn't normal, what is going on inside of me that is causing this to happen? How can I nurture myself to alleviate this pain? And I want this to be a really empowering message and not something that makes you feel like you're not normal or there's something wrong with you, because that is absolutely not the case. It is very hard for us as women to exist in today's world in the way that our society is built, in the amount of environmental chemicals that we are exposed to experience a cycle without experiencing PMS. It is quite challenging, but it is possible, and there is a way, and it is a reality for me now and for many women that have worked with cycle coaches like myself and with practitioners including naturopaths and MDs and women's hormone specialists that work towards a cycle and a period that is free of PMS. And that is what I want to share with you today. So I, of course, am not an MD. I am not a hormone specialist. My specialty is helping women align their lives and business with their cycle seasons. But I have done a lot of my own research and have so many incredible women and books that I am going to reference in the show notes, including midwives, MDs, naturopaths, holistic health counselors, hormone specialists, and books written by these women, podcasts hosted by these women, so that you can go and do your own research and hear from them what I am speaking about and what I've just said, but in more medical terms and with more kind of scientific backing, I guess. But I wanted to say that first and foremostly because I never want to normalize PMS. I never want to be sharing anything that makes women feel like their bodies are designed to suffer and their bodies are designed to be in pain every single month, because that is absolutely not the case. Your body is twice as capable of neutralizing the cramps that you experience than they are to create the cramps in the first place, right? You are always going to feel sensation because there is movement happening in your womb during your period. You are always going to feel a change in energy because your brain chemistry and your body is literally shifting during each phase of your cycle. But it is not normal for you to be doubled over in pain, experiencing vomiting, headaches, migraines, feeling like a completely different person, feeling like you're out of control of your own emotions and reactions and feelings. So, with that being said, I want to share some tips and tricks that will help you take care of yourself and your business if and when you experience PMS symptoms, because odds are we're going to experience them at some point in our life. And even if you do a lot of work to alleviate these symptoms, there may be some times where your cycle is giving you the symptoms because something else is going on. I recently had a period. For me now, the norm and most of my periods are easeful. Like, hand on heart, honest to God, can say that I rarely experience cramping. I rarely experience mood swings anymore. And that is a gift considering that I spent years trying to get rid of my period because I was suffering with debilitating mood swings and debilitating cramping. So it is possible. But the last period I had, actually, I noticed that while my cramps were absolutely nowhere near as bad as they had been in the past, that I was actually experiencing cramping, which now is not something I experience. I experience sensation and movement, but it's never pain. It's just sensation, right? Like, you know, you can feel your food digesting sometimes and there's a little bit of movement, but then you can also experience digestive pain. Same sort of thing with your cycle. You can experience the sensation of your womb, you know, shedding and contracting, but it should never feel like pain. But this past cycle, I experienced a little bit of pain, like more than usual, and enough for me to go, hang on, something is out of alignment. If I'm experiencing pain, there is something I need to look at. And through doing my own research and knowing what I know about what symptoms can mean what things, and I'm not going into that in this particular episode because, again, I want to have women on the podcast sharing that actually have studied for years to know this information and to share that wisdom with you. But basically did my own research, knew what symptoms meant what, and have been working to alleviate that with some natural supplements and shifts and tweaks in how I'm showing up for myself and different things like that. So that is very, you know, indicative of what I'm saying, that even if you live in alignment with your cycle, there may be some times where you do experience PMS, and it's important to know how to honor and nurture yourself and your business during the times that you do experience that. So in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing that, as well as some tips on how to prevent PMS and how to manage PMS so that you don't have to live and suffer with it. So the first thing I want to touch on, and the first thing that I would suggest in terms of how to take care of yourself and your business during PMS phase of your cycle, is honoring your cycle seasons. Honoring your cycle seasons is what changed my life and my cycle and, of course, my business. But When I'm speaking of this in relation to PMS, I'm talking about honoring specifically your winter and your autumn phase of your cycle. So your premenstrual and your menstrual phase of your cycle. This means winding down in your inner autumn, winding down as your body is preparing to bleed. If you are pushing and forcing and hustling and working and grinding up until the day that you bleed, I can almost guarantee you that your period is not going to be pleasant. If you, though, take time to slow down, to wind down, to prepare your body and your nervous system to experience a period, it's like preparing yourself for a good night's sleep. I always use sleep as an analogy because I just think it's such a tangible and relatable, like we all sleep, we all know what that is like. So think about nights where you have perhaps gone straight to bed after working. Maybe you've closed the laptop, brushed your teeth, got right into bed, fallen asleep. Or you've been doing something energetic. Maybe you've been out, you've been socializing, and you've come home and gone straight to bed. You may know that that sleep is going to be a little bit more restless, not as deep. You might take longer to go to fall asleep because your mind is active. And then think about the nights where you take the time to truly wind down and soften into your sleep, where you maybe eliminate some lights as you're getting later into the night. You turn off the fluorescents, you put away your phone, you make yourself a sleepy tea, you read a book, or you watch a Netflix show on the couch that is not too stimulating. Maybe you have a bath, whatever soothes you, right? And that sleep is going to be deep. That sleep is when your head hits the pillow and within minutes, and for some people, for my partner, within seconds, out, asleep. So to take care of yourself and to prevent PMS, I would say really focus on honoring your inner autumn and winding down specifically within the last half of your inner autumn. And then, of course, when you're on your period, resting, taking time to go slow, to soften, to truly do what your body is designed to do during this phase, and rest. That is actually the most productive thing you can do for your business. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. This is the hill that I will die on, that your business needs you to rest. Your body needs you to rest when you're on your period. It is the most productive thing you can do, the most. So doing this, honoring your inner autumn and inner winter, it actually helps reduce PMS in your next cycle and make your next cycle more easeful. And again, I'm going to use sleep as an example. So getting a good sleep makes the next day feel better, right? You have more energy. You wake up and you feel more vibrant. Your brain is working. You can, focus more. If you get a shitty sleep, your next day you're going to feel groggy and tired, and it's going to be hard for you to focus and concentrate. You may not communicate as clearly because your brain is all over the place. Your body is going to feel tired and slow and heavy. But if you take the time to sleep and you wind down properly and get that deep, delicious sleep, you're going to wake up with vibrance, vitality, energy, and the capacity to do what you want to do during your day, whether that's work, rest, or play, right? So try to think of it like that. The next thing I want to talk about is setting up supportive systems, structures, and schedule for your business so that it's running itself while you are winding down and resting. If you are a business owner and the idea of winding down and slowing down in your inner autumn and then completely resting during your period sounds like an impossibility because you're thinking, I have content to create, I have episodes to film. I have like clients to connect with. I can't, there's too much to do. And if I'm not on and I'm not creating and not showing up, I'm going to fall behind and I'm going to not have anything out there. And my clients are going to feel like they've been ghosted. My community's not going to receive anything from me. My marketing isn't going to be active, blah, 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 blah. Then we need to look at your systems and structures. Your business should be able to be running and flowing without you having to constantly be on. That is one of the coolest things, in my opinion, about cyclical business is being able to set up systems and structures so that you can take a step back, but your business is still thriving. You're still serving your clients. You're still showing up for your community, and you're still receiving the income while creating impact, even when you are laying on the couch and watching trashy TV with a glass of wine in your hand, or going for a walk with your family and leaving your phone at home. That is what gets to be possible. So what this looks like is batching your content, using your inner summer to batch your content so that you have stuff going out and you can rest with that peace of mind, knowing that you're going to have people with their eyes on your stuff, even when you're not actively showing up and sharing. This looks like scheduling your posts so that they automatically post. I use an app called Planoly, and it automatically plans I plan my content in there, and then it schedules and posts it for me. You can schedule your reels and your TikToks within the app, and it will post it automatically when you've scheduled it. This is harnessing your inner seasons and harnessing the systems that are already in place to help you use your business, to run your business, with more ease and flow. Also communicating with your team and clients, setting boundaries. I have an episode about this very topic, about setting boundaries with your team, your clients, and with yourself, to do with cyclical living and cyclical business, coming out very soon. So I won't dive super deep into this, but having that expectation understood that this is the time I will be resting. This is for your benefit, for my benefit, and having that honored, right? Rather than feeling like you're ghosting people, give them that clarity, communicate with them, whether it's your clients or your team or even your family, like make that expectation known. And if you have to, explain why it's important, to give them some context. You don't have to explain or justify resting and winding down, but if that helps them understand the effectiveness and the reason of it, by all means, use that. If you must work, if you must show up on a client call, or there's an obligation you have within your business that you need to fulfill within your inner winter, or like the very, very last few days of your inner autumn, I am not at all saying that you are not able to show up for that. You are a capable woman. You can do fucking anything. You can make $1 million while on your period, easy. You can run a marathon while bleeding if you want to. Does that mean you should? Probably not. So if you do need to do that, I'm not saying cancel it, scrap it, waste of time. If you have an obligation that you need to fulfill and you cannot, for whatever reason, reschedule it, then I am suggesting for you, this next tip is to really make sure you are nourishing and honoring yourself before, during, and after this obligation, especially before and after. So for example, let's say you get offered from a dream podcast host, like your favorite podcast host reaches out to you and says, love what you're doing. I want you to come and speak on the podcast. This is my only day available. Can you do it? And it happens to be like the first day of your period. That is not ideal for a podcast episode. You're not going to be at your peak, but I don't want you to turn it down. If that feels like something you really want to do and you don't want to let that opportunity pass by and there's absolutely no way of them rescheduling, it is possible for you to do that. But what you're going to want to do is make sure you are deeply, deeply resting, right before, like in the days leading up to it, resting, taking time, going slow, and making sure that your calendar after that interview is done is clear for you to really wind down and rest and relax, right? Because sometimes when we do one thing, like for me, I just led a workshop within a mastermind for a beautiful business coaches mastermind, and that was high energy. I felt amazing. I was in my inner summer, but afterwards I was super, super energized, and I had to consciously bring myself down. Like after I celebrated, of course, and like let myself feel all the feelings, I was like, okay, I need to wind down. It's 9 p.m. I need to start getting ready for sleep. Like, let's just cool it. Same thing, and especially when you're on your period, if you're having to do something like that, making sure that you have plans to wind yourself down, to show up for the commitment, for the obligation, but take the time to honor yourself before and after. And during, that might look like making sure you're in comfy clothes. If you're on a Zoom, making sure you're in like the comfiest pants ever, and maybe a nice top. If you're not having to shop on Zoom, or you have no shame, like I don't have shame, be in your comfiest like top. Make sure you have warm socks on, because when your feet are warm, your womb is warm, and I'm going to talk about that later in this episode, that is important for comfort. Have a hot water bottle, have a hot chocolate, like make the experience of whatever it is you're doing that much more delicious and like a ritual, like a self-care ritual. If you have to show up on a sales call and you usually just like click the Zoom and you're like, hello, hi, how are you? Like light a candle, light some incense, like make your chair as comfy as possible. Do whatever it is for you to show up in the way that you need to, but in the way that is also honoring where you're at in your cycle. So that is kind of some tips and tricks on how to take care of yourself and your business while you're PMSing. But now I want to share some ways for you to combat and prevent PMS. These things, as I have said before, are not something that I am recommending from a medical standpoint. There are so many other things that I would love to recommend, but I am not the qualified person to do so in terms of recommending supplementation or certain medications or herbs or anything like that. There are a few that I'll mention that I know are safe and for everyone to use, but I am seeking some women to come on the podcast that are very qualified to share their knowledge about that. But for me, these are the things that I have done, that I have known to work for me. Please take it with a grain of salt and do your own research and see what works for you. So, of course, as I said too, I'm going to have some amazing resources linked below for you to reference as well. But things that can help prevent and combat PMS. Number one, I have mentioned this so many times on my Instagram, and that is raspberry leaf tea. Raspberry leaf tea helps ease cramps, and for me this was a freaking game changer. I could not believe that it was going to work. I heard from multiple people that I should try it and follow a lot of amazing women that share natural remedies, and I was like, there is no way that this tea is going to like ease any form of cramping. Let me tell you that it works. Now, of course, if you're experiencing like chronic cramping and it's like debilitating to a point where even like strong medication isn't helping, of course, this isn't going to be the only solution. But if you're experiencing minor cramping, this is a beautiful way to just prepare your womb for your period so that it can do what it is so beautifully designed to do with the most ease. This I see is less of a treatment of cramps and more of a prevention. It is preparing my body rather than treating the pain. So for me, I use a loose leaf raspberry leaf tea, and I love Earl Grey and I love black tea, so I will put a little bit of black tea in as well for the taste, some oat milk or just black, and I will have that every day for basically most of my luteal phase, my inner autumn, and a few days in my in a winter. And this really does help. Speaking of teas and hot beverages, I really would encourage you to, as hard as it may sound, reduce caffeine during your inner autumn. So when you're in your premenstrual phase, reducing your intake of coffee, of black teas. Like as I just said before, I have raspberry leaf with black tea, but I try to make it as weak as possible. And also during my inner winter, I avoid caffeine in all forms, even matcha, just while I'm bleeding. So reducing the caffeine in your inner autumn and completely avoiding it in your inner winter. If that sounds like too scary for you, try it for 2 cycles and see if it works for you. If after 2 cycles you're like, it is not worth me giving up my iced latte to have like it's not worth it, by all means go back, do whatever feels right for you. But this is just something that I would recommend for you for your hormonal health anyway, because caffeine, women are affected by caffeine significantly differently than men. And again, I'll reference people that have the science to back that, but that's just something that I would recommend, and I do recommend to all of my clients and all of my female friends. I mentioned before warm socks, and that if your feet are warm, your womb is warm. This is really important. So keeping your body warm. And if you're in a hot climate, that doesn't mean like just existing, but like taking extra care to make sure your womb is warm. Like wearing your fuzzy socks or having a hot water bottle or avoiding cold showers. This is a big thing. I personally love a cold shower. Never thought I would say that, but in the mornings I've been doing Pilates and yoga, and I love starting my day with a cold shower. But I do not have cold showers in the last few days of my luteal phase, my inner autumn, and at all during my inner winter. It is warm showers only, and there is research to back that. Cold showers, cold plunges, your ice baths, they're amazing for your health, but doing them during your period or in the very late stage of your inner autumn is quite detrimental to your health and to your cyclical health, because it's a lot of pressure on your body when it's already doing something quite laborious, right? So no cold showers, no cold plunges, just during your period. You can absolutely do it any other phase of your cycle, and trying to stay warm and cozy as possible. This is really, really helpful for me. And I know that now I no longer use a hot water bottle so much to completely ease cramps, but I love a hot water bottle on my womb while I'm on my period, just for the comfort and just for the like soothing effect of it. Like I said, it's not to like get rid of cramps, even though if you are experiencing cramps, it's a great tool. For me, even without cramps, I love a hot water bottle. Love it. Or a heat pack, whatever you have to your, whatever you have access to. Another 2 things I want to note that I also want to put a little caveat again of saying these are things that I have tried that work for me, and I recommend you try things that you do your own research around this. So seed cycling is one, and it's where you consume certain seeds during certain times of your cycle to help your hormone levels. I'm hoping to have someone on the podcast to dive into detail about this, as well as herbal supplementation. And again, this will depend on what symptoms you're experiencing, what your hormone levels are, what your main pain points are, etc., etc. But these are also really valuable things to help. So for me, I love seed cycling. I make seed cycling protein balls. So I have protein balls for one half of my cycle and another set of protein balls that I make that have different seeds in them for the other half of my cycle. And for supplementation at the moment, the only thing I'm taking is I have cacao, which is not a supplement, but it's got a lot of magnesium in it, and I probably need a bit more magnesium, but that's what I have, and I find that also helps. Plus, I take a Vitex supplement, so it's a herbal supplement that helps alleviate PMS and just nurture your cyclical menstrual health. So I hope that's been helpful. The lawnmower somewhere around my house has just started going, so I hope that's not too loud, but I think it's a divine place for us to wrap up. And I could talk about this all day. I hope I've been slow enough for you to digest all of this. But my main takeaway that I want you to leave with is that PMS is not something you have to struggle with. There are ways for you to support yourself, to give your body the best chance to do what it's designed to do without having to exert itself to the point of absolute pain and imbalance. But if you are needing more support in aligning your life and business with your cycle, I am here for you. I have spaces available for free clarity calls, and also I encourage you to jump into the CEO Sisterhood, which I do free trainings in weekly, every other day, and we dive into these topics with much more depth. And also, as I have said many times during this episode, check out the beautiful women and the amazing resources that are linked in the show notes for any other support in your PMS healing journey. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. If you have any questions about this episode, please let me know. If you liked this episode, share it with a friend. And I'm just so grateful for you being here. All right, I'll see you in the next episode.